Welcome, beloved Divine Seeker. Today, we open the sacred pages of a work that carries not just words, but living law, the cosmic law and the law of life, as taught through the wisdom of the ascended masters. This is not theory, opinion, or philosophy alone. This is the universal and eternal principle that governs energy, vibration, and manifestation, the same law Jesus understood, demonstrated, and left as an example for all. The passages you are about to hear were once hidden, reserved only for those who entered the inner retreats and were prepared to receive them. But through the special dispensation of this age, these teachings have been released so that mankind, en masse, might awaken, apply, and become the law itself. I will read them to you exactly as they appear, unchanged, so that the vibration of the original instruction is preserved, and so you may feel the same frequency and authority with which they were first given. There are certain activities of the sacred fire being released to mankind now which were formerly not permitted by the great cosmic law. They were only given to those who qualified and secured entrance to the retreats of the masters. Through a special dispensation, this instruction has been permitted to be given to mankind en masse. Through the release of waves of cosmic light and then its constant increase, many actions of the law in regard to manifestations for mankind have changed. The cosmic law itself does not change, but phases of the law to produce results or manifestations and means of operation and application are changed at certain cycles to suit the consciousness of mankind. Therefore, certain phases of occult laws formerly used have become obsolete under this new dispensation. Within the last 30 years, many actions of the cosmic law have been changed. Much has been explained and clarified and is now known, which was not permitted before. Occult means hidden, and secrecy is not the order of the New Age. The constant release of cosmic light is one reason for this instruction being permitted at this time. This is a point not understood by some occult students, so they may feel that the giving forth of certain instruction to the public is overstepping the bounds. Because of the great need and the closing of cycles, the ascended Master Saint Germain was enabled to secure a dispensation to release this instruction which he had formulated on the inner planes during the last few centuries. He then began to draw together life streams in embodiment with whom he had close connections, and with whom he had worked through the centuries. Many responded, and of course, many did not for one reason or another. As these students made the calls in groups, particularly and individually, more and more cosmic light was released. This enabled certain phases of the law to be set into action, not heard of before. At the half-yearly council at the Grand Teton Conclave January 1st, 1931, the old occult law was set aside. Cosmic fundamental law never changes, but its means of presentation, application, and manifestation is changed according to the needs and status of mankind's consciousness from cycle to cycle. Certain phases have been taught by all the various esoteric teachings or orders through the centuries. This is the understanding Jesus had, as well as every great teacher or avatar, taught secretly to those close to them, or to those who could understand. Jesus said, "I of myself can do nothing. It is the Father in me that doeth the works," indicating that God was the doer and not the outer or personal self, the ego or body. Now, who was the Father he referred to? It was this individualized God presence that says, "I am." It was not just an abstract idea or principle, but a being of whom he was aware, to whom he could call or invoke, and who worked through him, manifesting the miracles and God qualities. Jesus knew his mission and the example of the ascension he was to leave to mankind. He said, "These things I have done ye shall also do," and in that he also meant the ascension, which is the goal of every life stream. However, mankind, through the centuries, have had their attention on and stressed the crucifixion, which they are experiencing and outpicturing now instead of the ascension, showing that what the attention is on, we draw unto us or become. That is law, a scientific fact. When you give your attention to a thing, your life energy feeds into that. Your attention makes the connection, and on that attention, the quality with which you connect comes back into your world. As an example, take an automobile accident, which many people have experienced. For hours or days afterwards, such an experience is uppermost in their consciousness. Some even become ill from it. Now, if it can be done with a destructive quality, the same law applies in a constructive way. Therefore, when we learn of our own individualized presence of God and the masters who have become one with it, we can draw their qualities into our worlds instead of destructive qualities. There is much good in every teaching and religion. In each are many universal and essential elements. Each one was planned on the inner planes by the world teacher and those in charge of that activity before it was brought forth into the outer world. Each one presented a certain portion of the law in a comprehensible way and in a manner adaptable to that time. Through the centuries, of course, many human concepts have crept in and beclouded the truth, yet we should be open-minded and alert enough to recognize the truth in each one or wherever we come across it. It is said, truth is its own defense, but it must come through human effort in the human realm. Truth from the human standpoint means the action of human qualities, as understood among mankind. In order to attain mastery, one need not acquire all knowledge of a universal scheme of things, but one must definitely have certain understanding, application, and discipline before he can manifest mastery. Some people have been taught that they may not ask anything of God or the law for themselves. This, evidently originally meaning gratification of self or wholly personal desires, is correct. To be of greatest service, or to do work well done, certain requirements are essential. Since mankind is in these limitations, and the law requires the call from the human realm, it is not wrong to call for what is required for service and to enable one to live a better life. We have to get over the old occult idea that we can't use knowledge of perfection to help ourselves. They certainly had to in retreats. When admitted, for instance, to the retreat at Luxor, they had to draw forth from within their own light what was required, that is food, etc. If they didn't, they would starve. Now it is different. We are given the knowledge right out here in the outer world, which was formerly given only in retreats. Instead of having to precipitate everything direct from the universal, we are taught how to make application, how by calling the presence into action, one can cause to be drawn to himself the things required, which are already physically manifested. The presence as the governor of the universe can manipulate and adjust conditions and circumstances to give one what is required in the service to life. That is a form of precipitation, but a slower process than instantly condensing it from the universal. This power is only one, small part of the law, and not so important from the inner standpoint. This is law. We are dealing with law, the law of energy and vibration, not someone's opinions, concepts, or theories, but law, universal and cosmic law which is impersonal, that never did and cannot fail. If one action or phase of it failed, it would throw the universe into chaos. It can no more fail than the universe can stop its action. The cosmic law is an activity directed by cosmic beings. When one thinks it does not work, or it seems not to work, it is because it has not been applied properly or correctly or sufficiently. It is not just a matter of saying so many words or saying them so many times, but a matter of releasing enough energy or a feeling that releases the currents from the presence which produces the manifestations. This is law, and law is law. When one gets the prove it, then you become the law. In former times, those who served the light went through limitations because they had only a fragmentary knowledge of the law. There is an inner and outer action of the law. Sometimes the masters speak of the inner, sometimes of the outer action. At the time of Richard the Lionhearted, during those 14 years when he was impelled forth, then such a point in the activity of the cosmic law was reached when an activity similar to the one now could have come forth. Through this understanding and activity, much has been accomplished and much avoided, which would otherwise have taken place. The application and cooperation of students with the Great White Brotherhood has enabled forces to be handled and adjustments made through human forms instead of through cataclysmic action. even the transmuting of etheric records, which are sustained by thought and feeling from generation to generation. The accumulation of this eventually results in cataclysmic action, at which time the Great Law permits it to be consumed or transmuted. The Masters are trying to avoid as much destruction and to save as many people as possible. Divine Seeker, what you have just received is not merely history or philosophy. It is the living blueprint of creation, the sacred science of your own being. The law does not fail. It is constant, eternal, and responsive to your attention, your energy, and your application. As we journey through this series, I invite you to approach each reading with the awareness that you are not simply listening. You are engaging with the very currents of the presence that govern the universe. If this message stirred something within your spirit, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone who is ready to awaken to their own divine law. For sacred offerings, I Am Wellness products, spiritual healthcare, prophetic storytelling, decoded films, and divine embodiment tools, visit figalisticrestoration.com. You are not broken, you are being restored. Let the presence return you to who you've always been.